Hey, I'm Dave Watkins, Watkins Films. Now, recently I came upon a Friday the 13th, or rather, it came upon me. And as Friday the 13th tends to happen, I try to watch a film from this box set from Scream Factory that has all the Friday the 13th films in it. This year, not this year, sometimes there can be more than one Friday the 13th in a year. Now, I don't always get to watch a Friday the 13th because sometimes life happens and I'm not able to watch it, or either I'm too tired or I attempt to watch it and then fall asleep. But this year I was successful and I did watch the whole film without falling asleep. And so the one I picked this year to watch was Friday the 13th, Part 7, The New Blood. Now, this is a 1988 horror slasher film, supernatural. Friday the 13th became supernatural, I think, starting at about part 6. Now, part 6 was where he was resurrected and he came back as a zombie Jason. At the end of that film, he's trapped in the lake as a zombie. And in this one, he looks fairly gruesome because now he's got like you can see the back of his spine, and eventually his mask comes off for a long period of time in this film, longer than in any other of the Friday the 13th films. His mask comes off and he looks gruesome and pretty cool, really. By 1988, slashers, it was kind of past the heyday of slashers, which started really becoming like a big thing when Halloween came out in 1978. But here, slashers they'd been going on for a while. Here we got about like 10 years of slashers, and really it was like writers were kind of running into like brick walls because it's like, what do? You keep telling the same story over and over again. So they started trying to do more creative stuff with them, and really they were doing more creative stuff with them already from the get-go. They couldn't just like, hey, we can't just do this over and over. Even this is what people want to see. They just want to see this formula, this slasher formula. But the writers, it's tough because you're like, do we really want to just do that again and make a generic slasher film? By this point, they really wanted to make a Freddy versus Jason film, but that didn't happen when this one, not until 2003. But instead of going Freddy versus Jason, someone suggested they make a Freddy versus Carrie with, the Carrie character with telekinetic powers where she can move things with her mind. So they have a very similar character in this film that eventually faces off against Jason, which is, in my opinion, the best part of the film. Now, the first time I saw this film, I rented it. I believe it was probably either on VHS or maybe DVD, but I did rent it. I remember renting it from the store, and I watched it with some friends. I was in high school, and I liked it okay. Now, I think I'd seen a few of the other ones before seeing this, but it definitely didn't stand out. One thing that kind of hinders it is the lack of special effects. They did. It's not really the special effects. There are special effects in the film, but really lack of gore and kills. Like the kills happen, but they're all like they were all edited. They couldn't get the rating that they wanted, so they had to cut out almost all the kills, and sometimes it's like you don't even know for a fact that somebody got killed because it just kind of happens off screen. You'll see a lot of the bodies after the fact. And that's another weird thing that happens in this one. There's a lot of scenes that take place out in the woods where there's just bodies hanging up on trees and people find bodies. There's a lot of like randomness that goes on in the woods in this one, which is kind of bizarre. So upon this rewatch, I'm going to reevaluate this a little bit. The disappointment of the kills was always kind of there. It was kind of like it felt like it was you're watching it on regular television and then they had to cut out some stuff. It kind of feels that way, though it's not bad. In general, it's not bad, but the ending, especially the fight between the Tina character, who's really a Carrie type of character that can fight Jason. Now that sequence is really cool, and Jason gets his mask taken off, and there's this long extended fight scene, and it's worth watching for this film. Now, also, Terry Kiser has a supporting role in this film. Terry Kiser, I knew him from Weekend at Bernie's and Weekend at Bernie's 2. They made a sequel to it where he played the Bernie character. In the first film, he dies, and then these two young guys who are working for him try to pretend like he's alive for most of the movie, and it's a slapstick comedy. I think a lot of people don't like the film, but I've always had a soft spot for it. I do enjoy it, and I even like the second one, which I did see in the movie theater, that they bring Bernie back to life through some kind of voodoo to kind of find some. He has some information about it, some money he has hidden, but they kind of bring him back to life, but he can just dance and kind of walk, but he can't. He's almost a zombie sort of thing, kind of like Jason is in this one. But I don't know if Jason's not necessarily a zombie, because he can still fight. He's still a badass, and he's still killing people pretty good. But yeah, so Carrie Kiser's in it. He plays a psychiatrist of the Tina character, and he is a villain. He's a human villain. He's brought her out to the woods, and he's trying to act like he's working on her, making her well, but he's really trying to get more information about her powers. He's fascinated by it, and he doesn't hide this very well throughout the movie. He comes off immediately like, okay, this guy is not a good doctor. It's funny, there is a fan film that was made recently, and it has both the actress that plays Tina, which is, her name's Laura Park Lincoln, and Terry Kiser in it. Terry Kiser's character is spoiler, he gets killed in the film, but he comes back as kind of a figment of her imagination, which is pretty cool. They got both those actors in the film, and it's okay for a fan film. It's unfortunate that they weren't able to continue the story of Tina past this one, even though she survives the film. But they wanted to continue it, but when they went into doing part 8, they couldn't ever agree on the script. Now, this is the film before last of the Paramount Friday the 13th series. And the next one was Jason in Manhattan. And after that, New Line Cinema purchased, they were able to get rights to the franchise. And all the other ones that were made after that were made by New Line Cinema. So, and this is also the last Friday the 13th that has a continuity at the beginning of it. And really, this is probably the last one that really maintains the continuity, because they eventually lose rights to a lot of the characters, like the human characters other than Jason, following this one. So the transfer here, this is a Blu-ray and not a 4K, but it also didn't have a new transfer. It is just an upscale, I believe, probably from an older master. It doesn't look horrible, and everything actually looks fairly nice. It's fairly organic. The grain all looks very natural. It could use an upgrade to 4K, or even if it's just a restoration, it would look better, but it still looks pretty good considering. So I'm glad I picked this one to watch on Friday the 13th. This Friday the 13th, I'll be watching probably another one on the next Friday the 13th. I picked this one specifically because I hadn't seen it in a while. I remember it pretty good, and it's one of those movies. I don't know, like a lot of these films that I saw when I was a certain age, like a teenager, I remember very, very well, and I did remember this one as I was watching it. There were some things that I didn't remember quite well, or quite the same. Especially, I didn't remember the climatic fight scene at the end, which I thought was really the highlight of this film. As far as the film itself, I'm going to give it a 3.5. Kind of leaning more towards the 3 side. I do like the film, and I do have a soft spot for it because of the age that I first saw it at, but I always thought it was lacking. Those scenes that they had to cut out, apparently they don't have a copy of the scenes. They have a copy of it on like a VHS quality SD. It looks really bad, so you can see the scenes that they cut out, but they don't have a good master of it, so they can't ever make a proper cut of this film. This film would be so much better if it had those scenes in it, and it probably would have been a lot better had they been able to make the Freddy versus Jason at this point in time. I did like what they eventually did with Freddy versus Jason, and maybe at that point the technology was probably further advanced than this, but I do like it for a 3.5. That's what I'd give it. Anyway, let me know your thoughts on it, and let me know what Friday the 13th you watched on Friday the 13th. I'm Dave Watkins. If you get a chance, if you could hit that like button, just smash that thing, and if you haven't done so already, if you would subscribe. Thanks for watching.